Hey, it's our wedding anniversary, and I have a lot of dishes ready for us today. I told my husband that I would be waiting for him to cook for our 5th wedding anniversary, but he said he couldn't come home because he had to go on a business trip on short notice.
Dishes? I don't care what you did. If you can't eat it alone, why don't you just throw it away in the garbage?
The moment he told me to throw it away, I felt my love for my husband rapidly disappear. Okay, I'll just throw it away. Oh yeah, and my name is Lucy. I am 29 years old now, and I work in an office. I'm not good with socializing, and I don't have anyone at work that I'm close enough to go out in private. I live alone, have no boyfriend, and spend my holidays alone. I am often asked whether I am lonely without a boyfriend, but I enjoy my hobbies and have never felt lonely. My hobby is cooking, and I like to cook dishes from all over the world that I have never eaten before. I often go all the way to supermarkets in the next city that deals with imported foods to cook foreign dishes. I enjoy spending time alone, so I have never strongly thought about having a boyfriend. But sometimes, I wish I had a child. I imagine that it would be fun to cook and make sweets with my children. Still, I didn't try to expand my social connections and gave up on the idea that it would be impossible for me, who always spent my days going back and forth between work and home. Then there was a drinking party at work. The chairman of our company runs several companies, and it was a joint drinking party for all of them. I always attended these drinking parties, which I actually don't want to go, but I can't say no. And I kill time by sitting in the corner and having a few drinks while snacking on food, even though no one else is eating because they are busy talking and drinking. This time, however, there was a man who was actively talking to me. That man was Fred, who will become my husband. He talked to me a lot, and at first, I was a bit confused. But Fred did not force me to get closer to him, and was kind and considerate. I immediately fell in love with him because I had little experience in love relationships. We then exchanged contact information. Fred confessed his feelings for me, and we started dating. 6 months later, he proposed to me. My husband praises my cooking as delicious, and always thanks me for cleaning and doing laundry. I thought I had married a good man, and that I could build a happy family with him. However, that happy life did not last long. At first, he thanked me for doing the house chores, but before I knew it, it had become the norm for me to do it. I come home earlier than my husband, but I also work, so it is a heavy burden for me to do all the housework. I asked my husband to help me as much as he can.
Housework is for women, isn't it? Besides, you say you are working, but you're just doing simple work, and I don't have time to do it, so you do it.
He told me that my office work is simple, and not only did he not want to improve, but he looked down on me. I was never good at talking back, so I couldn't argue and just accepted what my husband said. I was forced to do all the housework, so I did all the cleaning around the house, but there was one place I couldn't touch. That was the shelf for my husband. My husband is not good at cooking and organizing, and his shelves are always a mess. Since he can no longer fit things on the shelf, papers and things are piled up on the shelves. This pile of papers collapses once a week. I tried to clean this up once when I told my husband to do something about this.
Don't touch it without my permission. There's stuff from work, so leave it as it is.
Then you should tidy up. I might throw them away by mistake.
Then you will be at fault. Don't do anything you don't need to do.
My husband forbade me from even touching it, so I couldn't put it away. So I just kept putting the papers back when they collapsed. I hated that he took it for granted that I would do the housework. But what made me the saddest was that we rarely ate dinner together anymore. When we were first married, he would call me as soon as he knew he would have dinner outside with his colleagues. But now he won't tell me unless I ask him. Even when we were able to eat together, my husband looks at his phone and eats in silence. I have asked him to stop, but he won't let go of his phone and keeps saying he is checking on his work. Even though these things were going on, I didn't want to divorce him. I grew up in the countryside, and it was natural for me to stay with my husband until the end of our lives, so I had never thought of divorce. After 5 years of marriage, when I had become accustomed to my husband's arrogance, a piece of paper fell out of the stack of papers on the shelf. It was a credit card statement. Normally, I would have put it back on the shelf, but I was a little curious and looked through it. There was a list of all the transactions, and among them was the name of a well-known theme park. I have never been to a theme park with my husband. My husband often goes out with his workmates and friends, but I don't think he goes to theme parks with them. So, he is cheating on me. I have no conclusive evidence, but I could only assume that. From there, I looked through the pile of papers for any other evidence, and found a year's worth of credit card statements. There, I found a history of everything, from the names of luxury hotels and fine restaurants to airline tickets that I assumed he has spent on behalf of his cheating partner. When I checked the dates he spent the money, I found that they coincided with days when my husband said he was going on a business trip or would be late for a drink. Still, at that time I thought that if I told my husband that I knew he was cheating on me, he would apologize and come back to me. Maybe I wanted to think that the affair was just for fun, and that he actually cares more about me because we are married. I decided that I would tell my husband about the affair on our wedding anniversary. He was on a business trip when I looked at our credit card statement, and our wedding anniversary was just around the time he returned from his business trip. I called my husband to let him come straight home when he got back from his business trip.
What the heck? You called me out of the blue.
Do you have time right now?
Tell me quickly what the requirement is.
You will be back from your business trip in 3 days. It's our wedding anniversary. I'll be waiting for you with a lot of dishes for the anniversary, so don't go out for a drink and come back straight home.
Yes, okay.
My husband said in a bothersome manner, and immediately hung up the phone. For our first wedding anniversary, I made my husband's favorite gratin and onion soup, and he was very happy. I decided to make the same dishes this year and bought and prepared ingredients and new dishes for our wedding anniversary. I thought that if I told my husband about the affair and he apologized, I would forgive him. Then came the day of our anniversary. I finished most of the cooking, but my husband did not come home. I called him, but he did not answer the phone, so I was worried that he might have been in an accident. After the 5th call, my husband finally answered. Where are you?
I'm at the airport. Why do you ask?
Huh?
Didn't I tell you? Because I'm about to go on another business trip.
You didn't tell me anything about that.
It can't be helped. It's work.
Do you have a job that requires you to go on business trips that often?
You don't know anything about my job, so don't talk nonsense. Anyway, it is time to go.
Hey, we're celebrating our wedding anniversary today, and I've prepared the food.
I don't care about that. If you can't eat it alone, why don't you just throw it away in the garbage?
The moment he told me to throw it away, I felt the remained love for my husband fading. I was the one who was waiting for him to come home a while ago, but now I even feel disgusted. Okay, I'll throw it away. Oh yes, your room is getting much dirtier, so I'll just clean it up.
Suit yourself. I'm running out of time, so I'm hanging up.
The phone hangs up and I immediately start cleaning. I put the papers piled on top of the shelf of my husband that I was told not to touch into garbage bags, and I'm going to put them in the bulky trash tomorrow. The shelf I was not allowed to tidy up is now clear and organized. They say that cleaning makes you feel better and relieves stress, and they are so true. The resentment that had been building up for a few years was lifted. Now that I was refreshed, I decided to serve the food I had prepared and have dinner. Usually when my husband did not come home, or when he was home, it was a lonely dinner with no conversation. But today, I was able to enjoy my meal. I savored each dish with the wine that went with it, just as I did when I lived alone. I made enough for 2 people, so what I couldn't finish I will eat tomorrow. It was exciting and fun to think about what kind of meal I will cook next time. I went to bed early that day because I had a lot of things to do tomorrow. 3 days later, I received a call from my husband. He was coming back from a business trip and asked me to pick him up. Normally, I would be too lazy to pick him up, but on this particular day, I was happy to do so. When I arrived at the airport, my husband was curt and unappreciative as usual. Welcome back. You always travel by train, so why did you fly this time?
It was a business trip to a distant place. Just think about it for a minute and you'll understand.
Do you remember I told you I'd clean up your room when I called you?
Did I say that?
Yeah, so I cleaned up all your stuff.
What have you done?
You told me to do it on my own, so what is the problem?
You threw away the stuff I had on my shelves?
Yeah, I got rid of it.
I told you not to touch it without my permission.
That's why I asked you, and you said yes. My husband's face turned pale and he panicked. After thinking about it for a while, he gave up, nodded his head, and let out a loud sigh.
This is why I hate stupid women. I told you not to touch that all that time, but you... If there's a loss because of this, it's your fault. You have to do something about it.
What loss are you talking about?
There were all kinds of company documents and stuff. Maybe some things would be troublesome if it's gone.
You had company documents that shouldn't get lost?
Shut up. I told you not to interfere with my work. I'm not in charge of a job that anyone like you can do. I'm in charge of a job with responsibility. It's a normal thing for a man to do some work at home.
I was driving along, grinning inside as I listened to my husband. After about 20 minutes of driving, my husband finally noticed.
Hey, this isn't the direction of home. Where are you going?
I have someone I'm supposed to meet and I'm almost there. It was already near my husband's office when he realized the destination was not home. We arrived at our destination and I pulled into the parking lot and contacted someone on my phone. My husband must have thought he had nothing to do with it. He looked at his phone with a blank expression on his face. Mrs. Smith, my husband's boss, came to the parking lot. Thanks for your help, and I'm sorry to bother you. No, thank you for your cooperation as well.
What do you want with Mrs. Smith?
Mrs. Smith is a woman in her 30s, and she is the head of my husband's department. My husband doesn't like the fact that a woman not much older than him is the department head, and he often complained about Mrs. Smith at home. I heard that you were on a business trip. My husband seemed to be shocked and his eyes were shaking. It's strange, isn't it? You're on paid leave.
I think I made a mistake in telling my wife.
My husband was trying to cover it up with a goofy smile, even though he couldn't get away with it. Actually, Jenny from accounting also took paid leave on the exact same day.
That's a coincidence.
Not only this time, but for about 3 years, you and Jenny's paid vacation dates have coincided. You know that you can't put it away as a coincidence. Fred now knew that this is not a situation that can be dealt with by laughing. My husband was in a cold sweat, and his expression was serious. The problem is not only about your relationship with Jenny, but also about the information leak. You took company documents and data without permission. Your wife brought the items you took out to the company. I did not throw away my husband's things. I turned them over to the company. I had always wondered why my husband was taking company documents home with him. Some of the things were USB flash drives, so I brought all of them to the company because I knew that if I threw them away without permission, the company would be in trouble. Even if it was safe to take out, I would have it put on my husband's desk at work and not at home. When I asked his colleagues to look through 2 garbage bags worth of stuff, they found some documents that would make anyone at work pale in the face. And on top of that, the USB flash drive contained data that was not allowed to be taken out of the office. You know what you did, right?
She did it on her own. I kept it at home properly, so I didn't leak any information.
That's not the point. Anyway, the president and the chairman are both waiting for you in the conference room, so please, come right away.
Why the president and the chairman?
To decide on your punishment. While you two were on an affair trip to Guam, we were having a hard time here.
How did you know we went to Guam?
Jenny, the woman you were having an affair with, posted a bunch of pictures of Guam on social media, including a 2-shot of you.
Damn that bitch.
Thank you for your cooperation, ma'am. Thanks to you, you were able to catch him without letting him get away. No, I'm sorry for the inconvenience. My husband was caught by Mrs. Smith and took the elevator up. My husband was then disciplined. My husband said he took the documents and data out of the office to work at home. He thought he could just return them the next day, but they just piled up. He didn't know anymore where the documents came from and didn't know whether to return them or dispose of them, so he just kept them at home. I filed for alimony against my husband and the person with whom he had an affair. Jenny left the company because she was no longer able to work there. But I sent a certified letter to her home because I knew where she lived. We had no children and our marriage was short, so the alimony was small. However, Fred was not Jenny's only partner. She was also having an affair with a married man who was a business partner, who had a child and had been married for a long time. And because of the length of the affair, she was charged a large amount of alimony by her husband. Because of that, Jenny asked for a reduction of my alimony, and when I told her that if she objected, we would go to court, she immediately paid it. My husband tried to come back to me after he left me for his unfaithful partner, but I refused. I was getting ready to pack up my own stuff and leave.
I wouldn't allow you to leave without my permission.
He yelled at me and was very noisy, but I ignored him and proceeded with my preparations. When I finished packing my belongings and went out the door, my husband blocked the entrance.
You're the cause why I was fired and I have no money. But you dare leave me? Why are you so heartless?
You deserved everything from getting fired to being penniless. What are you saying now when you hate me enough to take a trip to Guam for our wedding anniversary with an adulterer? Can't you just let me go? If you don't let me go, I'll call the police. My husband reluctantly got out of the way. My husband was swearing until I got into the car. It was hilarious because my husband's swearing, which used to scare me, now sounded like a sore loser. After that, my husband's alimony of $20,000 was transferred to me in one lump sum. On the phone at the end, he was like,
I'll give you such a small amount of money, and I don't like women who are greedy for money, so I'm glad we got divorced. I know a bitch like you will be single for the rest of your life, so don't ask me if I want to come back to you. It's too much trouble."
He says so, but for my husband now, $20,000 must be a lot of money. In fact, the pile of documents my husband had left behind also contained ATM statements from a consumer credit company. There were also credit card statements where he had spent over $5,000 in 1 month paying for his unfaithful partner, so he must have been in debt because he had no money. Knowing that he was in debt, I thought he might not pay the alimony, but I am glad that he easily transferred the full amount. Since he is such a slacker, it seems like he is behind on his debt. I blocked all contact with my husband because it would be troublesome if he didn't pay his debts and had to rely on me. I am now an assistant at a cooking school. I quit my job after my divorce and moved far away. I used to think my cooking was a hobby and not at the level of a job. However, I got married and learned that I tend to give up because of various stereotypes. In order to break out of my shell, I decided to do my favorite cooking for my job. And I have a cat while living alone. I was told that having a pet would prevent one from being married, and I assumed the same thing. But I found out that such thinking was only hindering my challenge. I welcomed a shelter cat. And now I am addicted to cooking for cats, as well as for people. My name is Astrid. I am 34 years old, and I am a full-time housewife. I married my husband Ben 7 years ago, and now we currently have 2 daughters and live as a family of 4. Both my daughters, Maya and Millie, are really cute and adorable, and I am very happy that I get to be with them every day. My husband is very busy at work and comes home late at night, but he provides for the family, and I do my best to support him as much as I can. Of course, we argue at times, but we're not that bad as a married couple. Our life together as a family of 4 is basically peaceful. However, there's one issue that I just can't stand, and that is my mother-in-law, Francine. Francine is a typical terrible mother-in-law type, and from the very beginning of our marriage, I was being bullied by Francine as her daughter-in-law. "Oh, Astrid, what is this meal? It's so tasteless." Francine would put more salt and broths in my cooked dishes. But if Francine does that, it doesn't bring out the flavor of the ingredients at all, does it? But she didn't care about such things whatsoever, and poured mayonnaise, sugar, salt, and so on into my cooked dishes as if it was just a normal thing to do. But if I had made all the meals according to Francine's taste, it would have tasted too strong, and I wouldn't be able to eat it much. This happened frequently whenever I visited my parents-in-law's house. And Francine kept pressuring me from the beginning of our marriage, chanting like a spell, "Are you pregnant yet? Are you pregnant with my grandchild yet?" She stopped saying that after the birth of our daughter, but after the birth of our second child, she began to say another terrible thing. "Still no heir? If you're not pregnant with a boy, then there is no point of you being my eldest son's wife. When are you going to have your 3rd child? If you don't give birth to a boy, you being my eldest son's wife is worthless. My goodness, you really are a useless wife. If you don't give birth to a boy, your existence is just pointless." I've just had enough of Francine's ridiculous comments. No matter what Francine says, she always ends it with the phrase, "If you don't give birth to a boy, your existence is just pointless." I mean, I had 3 boys. How pathetic can you be? There must be something wrong with you, right? Why would Francine say such terrible things to me? I have 2 daughters, so there's nothing wrong with me at all. And in what kind of generation does Francine live in, saying that the baby had to be a boy? Children are precious regardless of whether they are boys or girls. These thoughts grew and grew inside me. And when I could no longer stand it anymore, I talked to my husband about it. I can't stand Francine just bullying me. I don't want to go to your parents' house anymore.
Okay, I understand. You don't have to visit my parents' house anymore. But you should show up at least on Thanksgiving and New Year's.
Fine. I really didn't want to see Francine on Thanksgiving and New Year's, but as expected, my husband is the eldest son, so I had to attend in order to make my husband look good. But with these conditions in place, I was able to avoid being involved with my in-laws as much as possible. But a little while later, my husband started coming home much later than usual. He usually comes home around 8 p.m. because he is busy with work, but lately it has been around 10 p.m. My husband says that he is working overtime and going out drinking more often for work, but I am not sure what is really going on. Because of him coming home very late, my daughters have hardly seen him for a long time. Daddy's not coming home today either? He says he's busy at work. It's very late, so let's just go to sleep now, okay? My daughters seem to miss their father very much. So that's why I said this to my husband one day. Hey, can't you make a day when you can come home early? Even if it's just for a little while? Our daughters miss you so much. But my husband responded in a very irritated manner.
Huh? Who do you think I've been working this late for? I'm not playing around. You've been too easy on yourself lately, haven't you? You've been telling me about your issues with Mom.
Excuse me?
You just demand too much from me. If you're the housewife, you should take care of the kids and the house by yourself.
To be honest, I was surprised at how my husband got angry at me. I only asked him to spend time with our daughters in the first place. So why did he have to say that to me? Little by little, a rift began to form between my husband and I. Then I had a chance to use Francine during Thanksgiving, and she was still picking on me. And Francine was not only bullying me, but also at her second son's wife and her third son's wife. You all better get in the kitchen and start getting ready. Oh, you're so adorable, my little Timmy. By the way, Francine's second son has a son named Timmy. Francine's third son just got married, so she hasn't mentioned anything about a child yet. Francine treats my daughters and her second son's son really differently. That I can even tell is discrimination. To my daughters, she would say, "Go play over there." And to Timmy, she says, "Aw, Timmy, come over here. You are very important, Timmy, since you'll be our heir." Francine's second son's wife, Lorna, and third son's wife, Callie, and I were a team just because Francine harassed all of us. She really changes her attitude so blatantly. I didn't even want her to decide that Timmy would be the heir without my permission. Yeah, that's really terrible, isn't it? The reason we are united includes the fact that our own husbands were not at all paying attention to us. Even though their own wives were being picked on, the husbands are completely oblivious to it, just drinking about and being lazy. They are happily talking with their relatives without any pressure compared to the pressure we have from Francine. And Francine was talking behind my back to her relatives. My God, she is really too unaware that she is my eldest son's wife. And she really is a bad wife who can't get pregnant with a boy. Francine would make unbelievable comments like that, and Lorna, Callie, and I were all in a state of shock. We thought we were all we had, and we inspired each other to support each other if anything happened to any of us. And since then, the months passed by quickly, and now New Year's Day arrived. Francine continued to give orders to us wives and treat us like her slaves. Come on, hurry up and bring out these dishes. If someone finished their drinks, pour them a drink as soon as possible. And she would hold Timmy in her arms and say, "Ah, he's so cute. I'll let you all hold him too." And she let all the relatives hug him. And on top of that, Francine, perhaps drunk, began to say unbelievable things really loudly. "Why don't you leave your wife and get a new one, Ben? The wife of an eldest son who can't give birth to a boy is just worthless." To that, my husband agreed to her.
You're right, Mom. Maybe I don't need a wife like her.
When Ben and Francine both began to laugh, all the other relatives laughed in tune with them. We, the wives, were shocked, and we all thought, what a terrible family. Then Francine got carried away and said, "You should sign this already." And I don't know when she prepared it, but she took out the divorce papers and held them out in front of me. "I don't want you in this house anymore. I don't want your granddaughters too, so you take them." My husband just looks on with a smirk on his face. I didn't want to be with these people anymore. I thought it was my chance. So I said, "Okay, I'll sign." My husband and I both finished signing the papers, and to my surprise, the divorce was finalized at the New Year's gathering.
Now, I'll be able to live peacefully with no more hassles from you.
"You'll have to find a new wife soon, sweetie." Ben and Francine both laughed like that. Lorna and Callie ran up to me and asked gently, "Are you alright?" "I'm fine now. I'm going to leave here first, but you guys should find a good time to escape too." As we were exchanging these words, my sister-in-law Winona, who was standing at the edge of the room, suddenly stood up. Winona was already married and living in the city, so I only saw her around the New Year's holiday. And since she would leave quickly after a quick visit, we didn't have much time to interact. Since she always disappears early in the party, I thought she had already gone home. But it seems that she was still there, which was unusual of her. "Good for you, Astrid. I'm so happy for you that you got to divorce my terrible brother." "Excuse me?"
Hey, how dare you say that to your own elder brother?
"Shut up, you filthy cheater." My husband's face suddenly stiffens.
Huh? What the hell are you talking about?
"I know everything. I know that you're having an affair, Ben." At that moment, everyone froze at the sudden statement made by Winona. "Wait, what are you talking about, Winona? Don't embarrass your brother by saying ridiculous things." "Well, this is the proof." Saying this, Winona puts photos of Ben with another woman in front of each relative's seat. Everyone was surprised to see the photos.
You? How did you even...
"You're having an affair with a classmate of mine from high school, you know."
What?
"It seems another classmate saw you at the scene and took photos for me. Well, now, you can't get away with this. Now that the divorce is finalized, you must pay alimony and child support to Astrid, okay?"
No way.
To my surprise, thanks to Winona's unexpected help, I was granted a divorce, all due to my husband and his stupid affair. I think now is the time for you guys to decide, right? I think that maybe even if Astrid gets divorced first like this, Mom will keep on pressuring you both, you know? Winona called out to Lorna and Callie. And both Lorna and Callie made up their minds and told their husbands how they felt. I hated that my child was made as the heir without my permission. And I hate you for agreeing with your mother. If you do as what Francine says any longer, let's just get a divorce.
What? Divorce?
If you don't like that, then just cut ties off with your family. If you're not going to cut any ties with your family, then I'm going to bring Timmy with me. I will never, ever let you meet Timmy again.
What the hell are you saying?
I don't want to be bullied by your mother anymore either. If I don't do anything now, she'll definitely say something about us having kids, won't she? You can either divorce me and stay with your family, or you can cut ties with your family. You choose.
What?
After an unexpected chaos, the relatives quickly left saying, "We're sorry to disturb you all, so we'll just leave for today." And they quickly left. What do you think you are both doing? I will never allow you all for divorce. It's not on you, Mom, to decide. It's all their decision. Oh, and I'll cut ties with his family too. That's why I came here today. No way! And so, Lorna and Callie pressured their husbands to make a decision. As it turns out, Ned and Steve have decided to cut ties with the family. Ned absolutely hated not being able to see his own son. And Steve decided to do that because he loves his wife. In the end, Francine was left with only Ben, who was in a huge debt. I received a large amount of alimony from my ex-husband and his lover, and my ex-husband is also paying me child support. And my ex-husband's lover hid the fact that she was married and refused my ex-husband's marriage proposal, saying that she could not marry Ben. So it seems like my ex-husband just became a divorced man who is hugely in debt. It seems that this has spread even in his workplace. And since he is not taken seriously by the woman anymore, he has no chance of getting married again at all. And as for my ex-mother-in-law, word has spread around the neighborhood that she has been abandoned by her sons and is being laughed at. It feels so great to know they deserved what they all got. As for me, I moved into the city where I was hired at my aunt's company, and I started living there with my daughters. Because of what had happened, I became close with Winona. Recently, I have been going out with Winona, who also lives in the city, for drinks once in a while, and taking each other's children to visit. I don't want to be in love for a while, so I will work hard and earn money to support for my daughters. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. See you in our next video.
I'm the head of the household. My orders are absolute. If you don't listen to me, we'll get a divorce.
Despite the fact that he was having an affair, my husband was still trying to control me. Why should I have to do everything he says? Fine, let's get a divorce then. Then I changed all the loans to be in his name. so he will realize just how much I supported our life together. My name is Belle. I'm 36 years old, and I work as a system engineer. It's been 6 years since I married my husband, Derek. We met through work, as the company where I worked as an engineer subcontracted work from his company. When I was working at his company as a temp, he spoke up to me kindly. And naturally, we started to get to know each other outside of work. After dating for a while, he proposed, and I accepted. When I got married, I quit my job at the company. Working as an engineer for a company was extremely demanding, and I was often overworked, both physically and mentally. The pay wasn't great either. I was worried that if I kept working like that, I wouldn't have enough time to spend with my husband, and our relationship would suffer. So I made a decision to become a freelancer, which allowed me to have more time for household chores and spending time with my husband. At first, I didn't make much money as a freelancer, but I had experience as an engineer. So I eventually started getting more clients and making more money. I was surprised at how quickly my income increased, and grateful for my husband for supporting us financially when I wasn't making much. I worked hard at housework, even though cooking wasn't my forte. I try to make different meals every day, using recipe books to make my husband happy.
Thanks for cooking and cleaning. It really helps me out.
My husband praised my housework, which made me happy. In the early days of my marriage, we respected each other and had a happy life together. But after a few years, my husband suddenly said this.
Isn't it time for us to get a new house?
Huh? A new house? I was surprised when my husband said that. It's because he's not the type to save money. In that case, shouldn't we save up a little more money?
What are you talking about? I earn a pretty decent income, don't I?
Huh?
Because you haven't had any financial problems since we got married, right?
That's because it's thanks to my income. But I couldn't say that to my husband. Although he gave me money for household expenses, he always spent his own allowance before the next payday. So I saved as much as I could from my income and added it to the household budget. Thanks to that, we were able to live without financial problems. I was grateful for being able to live thanks to my husband's income when we first got married. That's why I didn't even tell him that my income had increased. I thought I shouldn't hurt his self-esteem by telling him that I was making quite a bit of money working from home.
Even if I think I've spent too much money, our lifestyle hasn't changed. So I think my income has probably gone up.
Maybe he doesn't have a good grasp of his own income and expenses? I couldn't believe what my husband said. However, my husband seemed enthusiastic about building a new home, and I had no way of stopping him. What kind of house do you have in mind? I had to find a way to build a low-cost home while listening to my husband's desired conditions. But my husband kept adding more and more conditions. But if we want to fulfill all of these, the house will cost a considerable amount of money, won't it?
It's no big deal. It's a once-in-a-lifetime big purchase, and my income should be enough, right?
I wondered what basis my husband had for saying that. At that moment, I regretted not telling my husband about my income. I thought I would tell him about it to calm him down. Derek, it's about household expenses, but actually, I also contribute a significant amount from my income. But for some reason, my husband didn't believe me.
Come on, don't lie like that.
No, I'm not lying, but I wanted my husband to buy a more affordable house. But in the end, He didn't listen to me and used his salary to take out a loan for a house that he could barely afford to pay for. Initially, I thought we were spending money reasonably, but over the years, my husband's spending habits have become more reckless. He started indulging in luxuries like brand name clothes and watches, and going out drinking with his juniors every night. Although he works overtime to make up for it, his spending habits have become more and more difficult to ignore. Despite all this, he finally decided that he wanted to build a house. And in the end, he was able to make it happen. Wow! This is a really nice house.
A house is a clear sign of success, isn't it?
He was right. The new house is awesome. It's definitely worth the price. It's spacious, beautiful, and comfortable to live in. My workroom has become larger, and I can now fit a big desk in it, giving me more space to work comfortably. When your workplace is more comfortable, work can be done quickly and easily, which has helped me become even more productive. I'm grateful for that aspect of it, but our monthly mortgage payments still makes me anxious. My husband doesn't seem to realize it, but we're paying off a long-term loan every month. The house is under my husband's name, but he has a bad habit of overspending, so there is never any money in his account. As a result, I have to deposit my income into his account so that we can pay off the mortgage. I'm starting to feel frustrated with him, and one day, I decided to talk to him about it. Don't you think you've been spending too much lately? I want you to think about things like the mortgage for the house. When I said this, my husband frowned and rebuked me.
What are you talking about? Haven't we been able to live a normal life even after we bought the house? If that's the case, then there's no problem. You're just worrying too much about the small details. And isn't it because you were bad at managing your money that you don't have enough? It's not my problem.
What? Hold on a sec. I'm constantly thinking about how to save money from the daily living expenses I have with the money you gave me. And I'm supplementing it with money that I earn for the mortgage and other expenses. So please don't talk to me like that.
What's up with you, really? Besides, the money you are putting in is not that much. So don't act like you are so great. The one who earns the most is the greatest. So I'm the greatest. Don't try to give your opinions to me.
My husband said that to silence me. I was surprised by my husband's change in attitude. He used to be kind and considerate when we first got married. But since then, our relationship has become strained. We hardly talk, and sometimes we don't even say hi to each other. My husband had started working overtime more than ever before, and often comes home late at night. I wonder if it's okay to continue our married life like this. We're just living under the same roof without even having conversations. If that's the case, it might be better to get a divorce. But if possible, I wanted to reconcile with him. After thinking about it a lot, I decided to take the initiative to reach out to him. However, my husband shattered my determination in an instant. It happened when I went to town to buy a birthday present for a friend. It was a weekday, and my husband should have been at work as usual. But I found him in town, wearing his regular clothes and walking with a young woman I didn't know. I couldn't believe it, but I immediately thought it must be an affair. To find out the truth, I decided to hire a private investigator. About 3 weeks later, I got the results of the investigation and went to the detective agency. My husband was indeed having an affair. The woman was his colleague at work. And And surprisingly, their relationship had been going on for about 2 years. I understood the reason why my husband suddenly started spending extravagantly and coming home late due to overtime about 2 years ago was because he was having an affair. I was immediately filled with anger towards my husband. After all the verbal abuse he had thrown at me, he was the one having an affair. I felt pathetic for trying to protect his self-esteem and our marriage. I decided to abandon all my doubts and take action immediately. When I rushed back home, my husband was sitting on the sofa watching a sports program. I stood between the TV and my husband and spread the evidence of his affair in front of him. Explain this. When I showed my husband the photo evidence, he seemed surprised for a moment, but quickly changed his attitude.
Oh, that's Meg. She's my new wife.
New wife? What are you talking about?
Well, now that you know, there's no point in hiding it. Unfortunately, you are no longer needed.
What are you saying?
Frankly, I no longer have any use for you in my life. But Meg doesn't want to do household chores, so you can stay and do the housework for her.
What? Are you crazy? I would never do something like that. When I said that, my husband's face turned red with anger.
I'm the breadwinner in this household, so my orders are absolute. If you can't listen to me, then it's divorce.
Despite having an affair, my husband was still trying to control me. Why do I have to listen to him? Fine, let's get a divorce.
Huh?
First of all, you had an affair, so we can't continue our marriage like this. Let's just get a divorce already. My husband was taken aback but soon agreed with me.
Oh, alright. Don't come crying to me later.
I won't. But you have to help me with changing the names on the utility bills and the car loans we just bought. Soon, I changed all the loans into my husband's name and divorced him. He probably thought it was over, but for me, it was just the beginning. You should realize how much I supported your life. The day after the divorce was finalized, I was already relaxing in my new apartment. Then, I received a bunch of calls from my ex-husband. Since he had not yet paid me any compensation, I had not blocked his number. When I answered, he sounded flustered and said he needed to talk. I reluctantly agreed to meet him at a cafe, but he brought his mistress with him. Well, you two look great together. What's going on?
Why didn't you tell me? Every month, a large amount of money is being deducted for loans. And why? Are the food expenses, car loans, utilities, and everything else so high? What are you trying to do by pushing all of that onto me?
Huh? I divorced you and left that house. So that's only natural. I don't have any other intentions.
Shut up. This is fraud. I'll sue you.
My ex-husband and his mistress glared at me while holding each other's arms. They both said it was my fault. But I couldn't give in to such ridiculous accusations. It's your fault for not understanding the situation properly. I showed you various documents, didn't I? And since the loan for the house was originally in your name, it's only natural that you should pay for it. Until now, I've been putting the necessary money into your account.
How can you, with just small income, put in that much money?
As an ex-husband with poor comprehension skills, I explained everything to him. I was earning money as a freelance engineer. Currently, my annual income is around $200,000.
What do you think? Is that true?
Upon learning that I was earning much more than him, my ex-husband was surprised. But whether you know it or not, it doesn't matter anymore. More importantly, since I haven't properly claimed compensation yet, I will do so through a lawyer.
Are you trying to swindle money from us?
I'm just using my rightful claim. I will also make claims against your mistress.
That's...
Then I received compensation from both of them for the emotional distress they caused me. By the way, the woman my ex-husband had an affair with was devastated to learn that he wasn't using his own money to pay for the loan. The next day, she disappeared from his life. Their affair was just like any other, and it ended when the money ran out. My ex-husband now lives a lonely life, struggling to pay off his loan and make ends meet while commuting between work and home. He deserves the punishment he got, but apparently he couldn't accept it and spread the news of his affair around the office. His mistress claimed that he was abusing her, and they ended up in a messy quarrel. However, since they both lost their credibility, no one believed either of them. It seems that my ex-husband's financial troubles only worsened, and he eventually got demoted and received a pay cut due to his inability to focus on his work because of his mounting debts. It's all his own fault. And frankly, he deserves it. On the other hand, I was nervous when I first moved into my new high-rise apartment, but now I'm able to relax and enjoy my life here. I may not be interested in marriage or romance for a while, but that doesn't mean I want to be alone forever. If I meet someone in the future, I hope we can build a mutually supportive relationship based on what I've learned from this experience. For now, I'll focus on working hard and making the most of my time for myself.